presentation, what I'm going to make is around the DevOps, and I won't go into the bit detail level of the DevOps, but I will touch base on the aspects of DevOps, what DevOps is, if you don't know the DevOps, and why it is very, very important now in the Salesforce world, and also will touch base upon some of the key areas, how you can implement DevOps in your organization, and what is the way of doing it. What is DevOps? I mean, for most of the people who are from the development background, they might know what DevOps is, but for the audience who doesn't know, or who just heard about the DevOps buzzword, but doesn't know anything about it. So basically, it is an extension of an agile practice where you streamline the change by the build, validate, and deploy and test. And that will empower the teams or the cross-functional team to take the ownership of the end-to-end application. So you need not have to be dependent, or need not have to discuss with other teams when you're deploying it. So your package can independently flow from your start to the end. So so that's what it's saying, from design to the production support. So that's one package application. That's what allows you to build and develop and test and deploy in DevOps. So that will basically provide you the autonomy or the ownership of your end-to-end software. So the DevOps also encourages the communication and the collaboration. So how that has been done in DevOps is, if 4 developers are working on any of the functionality, and if you are deploying, and if you are following the DevOps, the coordination is the key here. So the 4 developers need to discuss and need to collaborate between themselves before they can release any package. And that's a very, very good thing about DevOps. The reason being is, many times I've seen in big projects where the functionality has been given to a developer, they work in a silo, and they build it something which is conflicting to the other developer. But in this scenario, the developers are compelled to have the collaboration and the communication between themselves. This is how, because the DevOps cover the end-to-end release of a package, so it basically provides the autonomy to build, validate, and deliver and support their own application. And nothing can go outside of this process. And even if somebody wants to try to throw over the wall, it's not going to happen. You can clearly identify that at a very, very initial level or initial stages of the process. DevOps and development and infrastructure in automating respective tasks on the server. Yeah, so that is where the traditional technology understanding is required here. So DevOps is your release, is mainly around the release mechanism. It's for the development operations, right? So you can some way relate to the infrastructure in automating repetitive tasks on the servers. Yes, but it's mainly around the development and and how your development process operates. So the DevOps is mainly around that.
Anthony wanted to know if DevOps is relevant to beginner developers as well as...
Absolutely. So it doesn't depend on what type of developer, whether you are a beginner or you are an advanced developer. This is something very, very key for anybody to understand and to start with. If you are a beginner developer now, because Salesforce is growing with DevOps, and it's getting adopted in a lot of organizations, I think it's really good for you to or beginner developers to adopt it right away, as this is the right time to adopt for the DevOps. Automate the user creation setup with Linux. You could achieve it with Bash or Python script. Yes, so those are basically what you're talking about is the data creation, which is which you can use for you can use any script to create the data. The DevOps also includes the data, where you can automate some of the data setup in Salesforce. That you can use the inbuilt Salesforce data loader CLI or something like that, or there are various tools which are available. So after the deployment, you can create a set of data. So or you can create your own Python scripts to create that. A question from Bhumika. With the autonomy of the deployment of the developing, how do they establish the source code control? So establishing the source code control, so that's what the purpose of the source code is. When you make any changes, it is used for the auditability. So who has made the changes, when, where, what? Those are the changes which has been captured in the source code. So that's what the whole purpose of the source code is. So irrespective of which development team is working on, they will own that source code at that time. They will merge their code, and they will be responsible for their own code and their own package. So that's what I meant with the autonomy. Do you use snapshots with your DevOps? Yes, it does cover that. But it's one of the components we need to check. So I will cover that off when we cover Salesforce DX in detail. So moving on to the next one, why it is important for Salesforce. So what we have seen is Salesforce is a really very good tool in terms of simplifying the business needs, business values. You can quickly turn around certain things within Salesforce, as opposed to the on-premise CRM platform which were there before Salesforce and in the organization. But it also brings the complexity. But when the organization grows, it also brings the complexity around the business values. So that led to the risk of getting out of sync very quickly, or getting or making your Salesforce org so complex that it requires extensive effort during the deployment. I have seen the big orgs or the complex orgs which require at least a week of deployment, bare minimum a week of deployment. Why this has happened is because Salesforce admin and developers directly focusing on the business values, and multiple admins and multiple developers working in their own way, deploying the things in their own way without understanding the impact. And that's what I said in the beginning. It's basically they're working in silos, and when the developer doesn't understand what the other developer is doing, they build up their own thing, and then that conflicts or overrides some of the other developers' work. So that's what this that's what is being now. It started happening in Salesforce world. And if you don't have a proper DevOps mechanism, and you also might have seen that if you're using chain set, or if you're deploying not using the version control, you might have seen that one developer has done something, deployed it, it is under test, other developers work on the same component and deployed it, and it is overridden the first developer's work. So basically you need extensive effort to do your regression. If you and this complexity can extend to hundreds of components within Salesforce, right? And if you don't have a systematic way of your release, you are gonna really struggle to scale up your existing Salesforce org. And with my experience, what I've seen is there are many instances where they started without thinking about, or only thinking about the business values, not thinking about the complexity, or not thinking about the scalable architecture. What has happened is they have to scrap their whole org. They have to start from the scratch within Salesforce. So that's what started happening in Salesforce arena now. So it is the right time to get structured, to get into DevOps, to get your release structured, so that your org can be scalable for the future changes. Most of the Salesforce org is for the sales people. They mainly used for the sales cloud. And what I've observed in the industry is that when it comes to pipeline, when it comes to financial figures, or Salesforce is a key platform for them. and most of the organization they have the audit process as well. So now, if you don't have this DevOps process in place, and I've been part of a lot of audits where I've been asked a lot of questions before, when the DevOps implemented, and how the DevOps make it easier for me to present it in front of auditors. That's a big change. So so it keeps a total audit of what exactly the change is, who has changed what and where and when. If you answer these questions in front of auditors, they are not going to ask any more questions. So auditors, so this is very, very key for audit tracking the whole DevOps process. So how you can achieve DevOps in DevOps for Salesforce in your organization? DevOps is not only the tools, right? So the tool is part of the DevOps. It's mainly around the mindset of the business, the operations, the developer community. The mindset needs to be changed. Now, if you are coming from the traditional technology background, and if you're a developer in a traditional technology like the Java, C#, .NET, you understand the need of DevOps. But Salesforce, before Salesforce DX, they never introduced a concept of DevOps. So the people who started their career within Salesforce during that period, you might see that some changes you deploy directly into full copy sandbox, making the changes, deployed using the change set. All that is easy, but again, coming back to the complexity of the org, when it becomes complex org, it will become a lot of difficulty during the deployment process. So that's where we are saying that the DevOps is also a mindset change. And when I started implementing DevOps, that was the very key challenge which has been faced by me. Initially we underestimated the impact of DevOps. So we just introduced the tool set, and we just said, okay, yeah, that's fine, this is your tool set, and ask the developers to start using it. But if that's not going to be the case, so the developers doesn't understand what exactly the DevOps, how it should work, because they are the Salesforce developer. They never worked on the traditional technologies. The business doesn't understand it, what exactly the change it's going to bring to them. The support team doesn't understand, because they are making some small configuration changes, so they don't understand why do we need, because their life was simple, because some business is raising the change, they are doing the change, and they're deploying the change. So that was very, very simple for them. But they don't understand what exactly they are changing, what exactly that impact of that change will be. Nobody is understanding that impact. So that's what you need to change the mindset. And how you're going to change the mindset is conduct a lot of training sessions. You need to make them understand what exactly the DevOps is going to bring, what exactly the benefit is going to bring, and that's not going to be simple. So when I introduced DevOps in the organization, the first one was to secure the budget. So we need to see what exactly the KPI they are going to this whole DevOps process is going to bring. So we estimated around about 100,000 K is going to be saved during the 3 years period. We can jump start on any of the projects because of the reusability of the code, and because of the and we will save a hell lot of time during the audit. When the auditors are in the office and we're sitting in front of the auditors. So we created that roadmap, and we created that budget. So that was not difficult, because everybody was in a way has a consensus that we need a structured process, and that DevOps is the right way of going there. And also you need to clearly identify, so how you target your audience. So you need to target your key business stakeholders. When I say key business stakeholders, the people who are requesting for the change, and the people who are requesting for the change, they are the key business champions or normal business users. So you need to socialize this process with them to tell them what exactly the benefit is going to bring. So one of the key example I can give you where the business was asking for the change. So for example, a validation rule. But you can add the validation rule, you can deploy the validation rule so quickly. But what that validation rule brings is it broke the lot of functionality in the Apex code, and it also breaks a lot of test classes. So next time when any developer deploy anything, it's broken. Now the effort what the developer needs to put in is 4 times the effort what it could have been done in a very first phase if we would have a DevOps. So we showed that comparison to the business. We showed that comparison to the support team. We showed that comparison to the developers, and they understand what exactly the impact of not following the DevOps could be. And that's how you should be bringing them into the process and buying them into the process. This is a very, very key for your DevOps to be successful, or the adoption towards your DevOps. Then understanding your tool set, what exactly the tool set which is available, what exactly your development or a developer stakeholders are. It's not only developers; there are admins who never worked on this DevOps process. So you need to identify those users, and you need to also select your tool set so that it is easy for your admins, your developer, your support teams to adopt. Some of the examples like your version control, like Bitbucket, Git, GearSet is another CI tool. AutoRabbit is one of the CI tools. These are some of the tools on which I have worked upon, and I have seen how these tools are really, really good in terms of helping the developers, admins, and the support team. Two key things out of this, how you can achieve your DevOps, is first, change the mindset. Without changing the mindset, you cannot achieve DevOps in your organization. And second thing is choosing the right tool with the right UI or the user experience. I'd like to cover some main challenges what you might face if you implement the DevOps in your organization. So business expect a very quick turnaround, because when Salesforce comes in, they always pitch in that this is click, not code. And so they expect the changes to be in very, very quickly, because if you have to create a field, you just create a field, you deploy it, make it on the page layout, and deploy that in production. But it's not only about the field. There are other configuration components which you need to keep that in mind as well. So you need to first set, as I said in the previous slide, you need to set a clear mindset and right mindset in front of the business, what you are trying to achieve with this overall DevOps process. And you have to break the myth that they can expect anything very, very quickly. We can understand that it's not quick enough to deploy any small configuration changes, but at the same time, it also reduces your time if there is any breakage in your production. Because if it is broken at the time of production, you will be in a firefighting mode, and in the firefighting mode, things may get right, things may get wrong, or things may take double the amount of time what has been spent during the build of that functionality. The another key challenge is, as I said in the very first slide, that this is the extension of Agile. Even though if you're not following the Agile, the DevOps process, it's very important to scope your release. If you're not scoping your release, and if you are releasing on the ad hoc basis, your DevOps process is not going to be successful. You will struggle with the adoption. You will struggle with the changes, with the who has done what and when, and that will lead to create a mess. So better is always you clearly define your release. When I say release, you define, okay, so for example, if you're working in Agile, you define that I'm gonna, in the sprint planning, you're gonna define there are 5 tickets, which I'm pretty sure after your estimation techniques, you put your estimations on that, and you created a package of that 5 tickets. Now you create a release branch where you make the changes for the 5 tickets and commit those changes into that branch, and that branch will be the source of the release. So you deploy that branch into your integration sandbox, where you can do your system integration testing. You can deploy it into UAT, and then you deploy it into production. So that's how you should be scoping your release, and that's very, very important. Otherwise, DevOps is not going to successful. Adoption by the Salesforce administrators, as I said earlier, Salesforce administrators are not from the development background. You might struggle, but you can overcome that by having a regular training sessions, make them help them understand what exactly the concept of DevOps is, what exactly the commit means, what exactly the merge means, what exactly the build means. So one training session is not going to be enough. You need to have a series of training sessions. You need to keep an eye. You need to work with them collaboratively if you are implementing DevOps in your organization. Another key thing is temptation to fix issue quickly into production. It's absolutely no. It's there are in some of the breakages you might have seen that so sometimes you fix it directly into production and it will solve the problem, but that's not you're basically breaking the whole DevOps, because if any changes or the changes which has been worked by the developer, that is again come into production, and that will override these quick fixes. So stop quick fixes. So the terminology here is the hot fix. Right? So hot fix is the process within the DevOps where you do some urgent fix in production, but you also at the same time you also ensure that your changes, what you have done in production, also propagate into the downstream systems, into the test environments, into the developer environments. There are certain metadata, Salesforce metadata API limitation, but you have to live with that because that's Salesforce. So Salesforce is keep on enhancing in every release. Their metadata is also getting enhanced, so that you also need to update your CI tool as well, or you need to update your processes. So the documentation is a key here. You should maintain the proper documentation, which should have a step-by-step guide and the process defined in that documentation. Getting budget approved. This is not a challenge for never a challenge for me, but might be a challenge for some of you who will introduce DevOps in your organization. It's very important that you create your business case to introduce the DevOps in your organization, which shows very clear KPIs. If you need any help creating a business case, I'm happy to help you out. So it's again, not everybody understands the importance of DevOps. So you might struggle to get the budget approved for your DevOps tool set. So there are two ways of deployment. I will just cover that very, very quickly. So one is the org-driven deployment, where you have your Salesforce developer orgs. You create the feature branches there, and and merge it to release branch, and that release branch goes into integration, UAT, staging, and production. The other one is the source-driven package deployment, where there is a concept of Salesforce DX. You create a specific package for your functionality, and you create that in your Scratch org. If you need information on the Scratch org, I can send you. Or I can post that on LinkedIn, the links where you can get the understanding of Scratch org. So you create a package in your source control, and that package is going to install in your test environment, the UAT environment, and pre-prod and prod. So this is basically in the Scratch org, you do your unit test and build, and then you test in the various environments, and then you deploy. And this is what the source-driven package deployment is. If you have installed the managed package, this is somewhat similar to that. Not on the App Exchange, but this is a package what you can create and you can install that. So there are certain CLIs which you can run on your VS Code, which can or quickly install these packages in your respective orgs. Some of the tool sets which I think is good for you to understand is version control. I have personally used Bitbucket. I haven't used Git, but Git again is a Bitbucket is also based on Git. Some CI tool sets, there are Perio, AutoRabbit. I have personally used AutoRabbit. Capado, Flosum, Gearset, Metazoa. The benefit what I got from AutoRabbit was it's very, very user intuitive, and I really didn't struggle to get a good user experience with AutoRabbit in the Salesforce administrator community. you can have your open source CI tool, but I won't recommend that. If your organization has a budget for your CI tool, just go for any App Exchange one, because they are managed one. If you're going to have an open source, you might spend a lot of time, or you need a dedicated resource to maintain this particular CI tool within your org. So some of the test automation tools are Prover, XLQ, and you can write your own Selenium scripts. The benefit of so your DevOps process cannot be completed, or your CI/CD process cannot be completed without having the test automation in place. So we should not underestimate the power of the test automation as well. But if you are starting with, so this should come at the third step of your adoption. First, you need to socialize your version control. Then second is the CI tool. Then enhance the process, robust the process, and then introduce the test automation. Static analysis. This is again one of the key to maintain the quality gate check in your organization. Is either you can have checkmarks report running regularly, or there are various APIs also which you can utilize within your tool set. Cobertura, and also there is a standard Salesforce Apex PMD which you can use for the quality gate check. I can, I don't think this is the right forum for me to recommend the tools here, but it's just to give you a flavors of what tool set is there in the market. I can give you the comparison between Capado and others. I have personally used AutoRabbit, and I have used Capado as well. So Capado is very native to Salesforce. It sits on top of Salesforce, and you also need to compare the commercial aspects of the tools as well. AutoRabbit sits outside of Salesforce. They have their own platform. They have their own servers. They totally work on the Salesforce metadata API, and it is very user intuitive as well. And the key thing here is you need to understand the commercial aspect of all the tools. There are some of these tools are free as well. Like you can try G.A.C.K, but there are certain functionality which might be missing. So like what I have observed in G.A.C.K is the merge functionality is not there. So you have to have your CLI to merge from one branch to another branch. But at the same time, your AutoRabbit has merge functionality within their UI. But again, it's a bit bucket thing, because when you merge from one branch to another branch, you have to be very, very sure what exactly you are merging to, and you need to compare that, and that's where the collaboration between the developers are needed. When you at the time of conflict of the two repositories.
If there's any more questions for Alok, obviously, as he said, he's happy to help people out and stuff, which I think is absolutely fantastic. You can grab him on LinkedIn, I'm sure, Alok, right? And drop you a message or whatever if anyone's got any further questions. I'd like to take a second to thank Alok, and if anyone wants to put their microphones back on, because I think the man deserves a bit of a round of applause for that. I think that was absolutely fantastic. Put together something really great there, mate, and really detailed.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. That was really helpful, and I really wanted to share my knowledge, what I've grabbed for the last 3-4 years within Salesforce Dev, to the wider group. And thanks, Chris, for providing that platform to share my knowledge. Thank you very much for that.
Before I introduce John, one of our guys in here, G.A.C.K, who's actually in the group at the moment, he's looking at putting something together called Ramble Force, because obviously at the moment we're struggling with staying at home, and now we've got a little bit more autonomy to move around, but we need to stay inside the restrictions, etc. He's going to be starting a series of walks with people inside Salesforce. The first one's actually going to be this weekend as a pilot down in Richmond Park, and then the first formal meetup will be on the 11th of July. Looking to get people together and going to walk or ramble, or however you want to put it, around some nice areas in London, and just sort of be able to get FaceTime with people and discuss different stuff that's going on in Salesforce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speak to Stuart, and I'm going to put some stuff together on LinkedIn and put it out. But I think it's quite a cool little event that he's going to be starting. And if anyone's interested in, popping down to Richmond Park and seeing some other trailblazers, do let us know, and we can give you sort of some more details around that. But yeah, once again, thanks a lot. Our next talk is going to be with the one and only Jonathan Fox. So, John, do you want to show us your beautiful face? There he is.
Hi there, how you doing? Today, what I wanted to give was a little bit of an overview, a little bit of understanding of what is GACK. And it's a fab word. I think it's a fab word. Don't worry, I'm not going to be grabbing your attention for too long, and it is just going to be a brief run through so you have a bit of an idea of what's going on in your Salesforce org when you see GACK. Okay, so what is GACK? If you've been working on Salesforce long enough, working with the products that Salesforce has to offer, just even in general, you might only have just started, you may have come across an error message. Something that looks like this: an internal server error has occurred. Now, it doesn't provide you with tons of detail. It's not super informative, and it lets you know that Salesforce has been contacted about this error, and it gives you a bit of an error ID at the bottom there. It's not super clear to anyone who wants to know what's going on. But this message does have a bit more going on in the background, and it does have a bit more of meaning, especially to Salesforce. And this is why I wanted to bring it to your attention today. So this is all part of a system that Salesforce has put together to help categorize an issue, a bug within your org that other users might be experiencing also. What you can see here, this error message is, and if you haven't seen it before, is similar to ringing someone up on the phone and that voice says you've dialed a number that is no longer available. It's like when you shop and you see the shop assistant closing the shutters 5 minutes early and they're watching you as you run into the shop and you can't get in. It's really annoying. That's what I'm trying to say, is really frustrating. So this is the mechanism that Salesforce used to catch uncaught and unhandled errors. And for any developers out there, you know the general way of catching and handling errors, but let's be honest, there's that many things that Salesforce has going on. It's cloud, it's multi-tenancy. It'd be so difficult for them to catch and handle every single error. Understanding this error message, what you can see here is, one, Salesforce is apologizing. They actually say sorry, and that's because it's not your problem. Well, it's kind of your problem. You have to deal with it, but they're on it. What you've also got here at the bottom is the error message, the error ID, sorry. And it's split into two sections. You've got the numbers with the hyphen in the middle, and then you've got the numbers within the bracket. So a bit of context, the error ID at the beginning is the event ID, so the event in which this error has occurred. And then you've got the stack trace within the brackets. Now, if you are capable and competent enough, that could actually help you out. You can try and diagnose it a little bit, but more often than not, you're probably not going to be able to figure out too much what's gone on. Salesforce is, gosh, it's not only worldwide, there are millions of users, and these GACK messages here that you can see, these errors, gosh, there's going to be tens and tens and tens of thousands of them happening every single day, undoubtedly, just because Salesforce has billions of transactions going on every single day. And as I say, because it's in the cloud, it's multi-tenant environment, it's going to be so incredibly complicated for them to have to deal with not only every single error, but also dealing with every single instance of this error as well, and understanding how it's occurred for you and how to solve it. But as we know, they are fantastic at dealing with things, especially if you jump on the support. So it is a signal. There is noise behind it. It's not just, and you may think it is when you just see it and you do the same action over and over again, you see the same message. There is noise there. They are notified of it. So what I'm going to just show you now is the actual GACK system that is in the background at Salesforce. Help put into a bit more context how things are being dealt with. So you get that gap, and that is, it goes into the Salesforce backend at Salesforce. They deal with it. They match it against any others they have within their system. And if they can find a match based on the ID, and not every ID is going to be identical, but they have ways of matching similar IDs to the similar issue, they'll add them together and store them as the same bug, the same issue. Now, if it's a new one, it'll create a new issue, a new bug on their system, on their GACK system. And either way, it is routed to the relevant R&D team to deal with this issue. Now, it might be a known issue, but it might be something that's on their backlog. They might be dealing with it. So in the background, there is a process for them that they are figuring out to try and fix this issue. What you can do at that point is most definitely grab that ID, raise a ticket with Salesforce support, and let them know that you've had this issue. But I would say nearly 99% of the time, they've already had this notification that you've had this, maybe in background, maybe not actively on their screen right in front of the agent, but there is a notice that they've got this error before you have a chance to even get onto customer support and ask them for help. But there is a way that you can help this whole resolution process be resolved a bit more efficiently. And I know for a fact that I've had to deal with this myself, so I can understand how frustrating it can be to just give the error ID to a support agent and think, well, they should know what it means and go away and fix it. But also just the to and fro in of the process. So the quicker and more details we can give to the support agent, the better, and the faster we can get on with our job. So the ways that we can help to speed this process up is we can post a message on the Salesforce Stack Exchange, because there are people all the time on there looking to help each other out. And Salesforce employees actually do go on there, especially the chaps and girls who help out on the Salesforce support. They're also on there too. Reproduction of the issue. So what are your reproduction steps? It's no good just saying, I've got this issue and here's my error. So definitely throw in as much detail as physically possible. Throw in as much information as you've got to provide the support with the best way of dealing with the situation. And then another way you can do it, and it's something I personally do and I would recommend, is screen capturing, videoing your actual steps. So it can be determined whether or not there is a bit of user error going on, or it is in fact a genuine bug. Now, it's not lost. You are making that noise on their back end. Whether or not the issue is still live for them, and this is they've closed that ticket already, this would reopen it and be attached to that said issue, that said ticket. And that's if they've closed it as they can't reproduce it. This would open up the new ticket for them and allow them to know that this issue is still persistent. They are not going to ignore the issue, especially because if you're experiencing it, there's a high chance that someone else within the ecosystem is also experiencing a similar issue. Now, there are cases, and it does happen, these anomalies. You might have done something that really is super difficult for them to reproduce, and you might not even be able to reproduce it again yourself. It might just be a server downtime. There are lots of reasons what could cause this that would make it not reproducible. Now, that's not something to worry about. It is just something to keep in the back of your mind, especially if they don't have an answer for you. The part when you need to start persisting with this issue is when you get it consistently. So they're never lost. There is an audit trail in the background of all these GACKs that have been raised and the ones that have been closed and reopened. So by you creating this error and popping it up on your screen, or you going to Salesforce support and raising a case, it is not lost. even though there will be thousands of these going on. That concludes what I wanted to talk about today. That was really just a quick high-level overview of what that message actually means. And don't be afraid if you can't really make head nor tail of it, because to be honest with you, it's not meant for you to make head nor tail of it. That is for them and their system in the background to deal with the error that you might be facing. I hope it was a little bit of an insight for you, a little bit of an eye-opener to what that actually is. There is no hard and fast way of solving it, but the best thing to take away from this, and what I want to kind of highlight and take away from this, is when you are using a system, when you're implementing a system, when you're testing a system, is to constantly document your steps, recreate your steps, and in as much detail as possible, because my previous career was a software tester, and it is the most important thing to finding out where things are going wrong is documenting your steps in as much detail as possible. Thank you very much, and I'll pass you back over to Chris. Anthony did just ask a quick, just seen that question. Should we inform Salesforce? Well, if it's a persistent issue, if you're going to get this error message popping up multiple times and it's blocking you from doing a process, then I would say yes. The bit that I wanted to highlight was it's an ambiguous message to start with, so don't be put off by that. What I wanted to highlight was get as much information in there, your steps to reproduce, video to capture what you're doing. If you're au fait with the developer console within your browser, take a look at that, export some of the files that you can get off there, provide as much detail, and it'll help them resolve your issue a lot quicker.